The Caribbean is now home to the fastest man and the fastest woman alive. That's quite an achievement. Really and truly, the achievement is more Jamaica's own and not the entirety of the Caribbean. But, there's a time I was looking for some information. I was reading up on some random information. I was trying to find out the proper names for different relatives, Like, if I have a brother-in-law or if I have a sister-in-law and she has a sibling, what is that person to me? Are they my brother-in-law too? And literally when I was reading up on it, it's according to how the person is. If it's a good, respectable person, you can call them your brother-in-law. If it's someone who is quite a ruffian, and I think it was an English article I was reading, so they may have very well literally used the word ruffian. And if the person is a ruffian, then they're nothing to you. And I think that's how some of the Caribbean relationships go. Jamaica, especially Jamaica and Trinidad. Jamaica is our Caribbean sibling when they're winning gold. But when there are Twitter battles raging on, a lot of that brotherhood disappears. If you have never seen one of those battles, well, let's just say they get very funny and very insulting, according to which side you look at things on. But Jamaica is continuing to make us proud on the track field with their runners. There's something in the Jamaican air that allows people to run really fast, apparently. Fraser-Pryce, the second fastest woman of all time after 10.63. Kingston, Jamaica. 4-time world champion Shelly Ann Fraser-Pryce clocked the fastest women's 100 meters time in over 3 decades and the 4th fastest time ever when she sped to a sizzling 10.63 seconds on Saturday. Yes, the 4th fastest time ever, although she's the 2nd fastest woman, because the 1st fastest woman had the first 3 fastest times. That was one Florence Griffith Joyner back in 1988, where she blew away everyone and clocked 3 of the fastest times that would never be beaten. She broke the 100-meter record and she broke the 200-meter record, and unfortunately she died relatively young, so she isn't alive to congratulate Shelly Ann for nearly reaching her speeds. You ever wondered why the Caribbean, and the entire Western world in general, the United States included, seems so particularly good at athletics? I have a theory behind it. A sort of pseudoscientific genetic theory. Some might call it racist, but I think I could get away with it because my skin dark enough, to be quite honest. I think it had something to do with slavery. I'm half joking, but I'm half serious. So if you're offended, then think of me as the half joking side. And if you're not offended, then maybe we could seriously wonder about this. So do you understand how genetics works, how selecting the best, natural selection, survival of the fittest? Well, it's not necessarily survival of the fittest, but survival of the most adaptable. And then I wonder, if you take people from one continent in Africa, I'm speaking about slavery here, yes. You take people, bring them across the Middle Passage, and what is going to happen on the Middle Passage, if we're being honest? The weakest people will die out. And then you bring these people to the New World and put them to work for 400 years. I think slavery may have gone through the selection process of making some of the best athletes around. And I haven't done the study to prove it. If there's a study to prove it, someone in the comments tell me. But I really wonder about it sometimes because it seems nearly advantageous. The Caribbean and the Black Americans seem to just dominate the running sports, and it's not just about Africans because the Caribbean and the other athletes seem to dominate even the African athletes also. Anyway, that's enough of my unproven science. And if you're a racist and you're trying to take this to try and prove some racist something of your own, well, this doesn't prove anything because this isn't really scientific. There's no proof in anything I just said. It's all a theory. I wonder about it. But then it could seem like it's not proven because over here in Trinidad, our athletes in our football team seem to not be able to do quite well. They don't seem to be meeting up to that scratch of being the fastest people alive. We're struggling to beat Bahamas. And Bahamas, as good as they may be to Bahamians, in the general world, I think they were number 204. Trinidad and Tobago knocked out World Cup qualifying by Bahamas. Soca Warriors were eliminated in the first round of the 2022 World Cup qualifying campaign after a 0-0 draw against Bahamas at the Thomas Robinson Stadium in Nassau, Bahamas on Saturday. And since then, a lot of Trinis were very upset about this. They took to social media. You are seeing a lot of these posts all around, blaming from a side. There seems to be more than enough blame to go around. And by the way, as I talk about other social media, do I still speak too fast on my YouTube videos also? I saw some people comment about that on TikTok, and I don't know if they even watch some of my YouTube videos. I'm wondering, tell me in the comments. I know this isn't just a trick to get you to comment, even though I do like to see extra comments. It lets me know what you think about the video. But I honestly would like to know, do I speak too fast still in my YouTube videos? Should I slow down my speaking speed? And while you're leaving that comment and telling me that, if you like the video, share it to people who would like this style of content, share it to people who would be interested in finding out what is going on in and around our Caribbean and how it affects us. And you'd see exactly how some of this affects us in the larger picture also. Because once you get digging deeper into the problems involving the Soca Warriors, the Trinidad and Tobago football team, you see that a lot of it has to do with corruption. Reading an article from Wired 868, Fenwick blames squandered chances on World Cup knockout. Can still net salary hike of US $25,000 per month. And they reiterate some of the heartbreaking stuff going on with our national team. But when it reaches down closer to the end, you're starting to see some of the problems that the national team is facing that has nothing really to do with football. Fenwick's hint, and Fenwick is the national coach, Fenwick's hint about using youngsters would probably raise speculation of a debut senior runout for 18-year-old Gary Griffith III, who is the son of Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith, but an unknown quantity in the local game. Having failed to stand out at school or club level, Griffith III is the only player nurtured by Fenwick's Football Factory Academy to ever get a senior national team pick. And the suggestion there that is not really being hidden is that there's some favoritism there. And that very suggestion got our Commissioner of Police, and anyone who knows anything about our Commissioner of Police, you know that he is not afraid to speak his mind, and he's not afraid to say when he is offended. And some of the attacks that came his way, well, the perceived attacks that he saw coming his way, especially with the angle of his son, saw a reaction come from him. Commissioner of Police Griffith pulls his support of TT men's football team, and he wrote quite a long post in which he spoke about how disappointed he was, and the point of his anger was at an Express article, an Express journalist who contacted him with questions about his son pertaining to the national team, and with it he drew reference to the recent events of Naomi Osaka. If anyone is familiar with her, she's the up-and-coming tennis superstar who bowed out of an entire tournament because she didn't want to do the press conferences because she said they had a negative effect on her mental health. And some people praised her for it. Some people love the stance that she took as regarding her mental health and not allowing the media to assume that they have constant access to you and your personhood. And our Commissioner of Police sought to appeal to some of that reasoning and that rationale. And to me, some of it made sense. The arguments and some of the criticisms on his son are really unnecessary and unwarranted. His son didn't choose the father's occupation. His son didn't choose the father's attitude and the father's character. His son didn't choose to make his father into such a character that garners such attention and seems to be a favorite of people picking at him. But that's not the son's fault. And it's quite unfair to try to drag the son into that. Even though criticisms of the son's footballing skills are fair game, because if the son is attempting to be a national footballer, any national footballer in Trinidad will know the criticisms are plentiful. Ask Sturgeon, ask Kenwyn Jones, ask any one of the national footballers, the kind of talk they have to take. So on one side, I understand that there is a particular attack strategy against the commissioner's son, which is really unwarranted and unhealthy, especially when dealing with a young man like that. But on the other side, if he has an intention to be in the national line, in the national spotlight, as a national athlete, someone performing on behalf of Trinidad, then he needs to understand also that the criticisms will come aplenty because of that. But the Wired 868 article didn't just end speaking about the commissioner's son. They went on. Fenwick gave no indication that he is ready to walk away from his US $20,000, which is TT $134,600 a month contract. And to anyone wondering the average salaries, how salaries generally go in Trinidad, bear in mind if you watched yesterday's video, go watch yesterday's video for context and read and remember what was the salary of a CPEP worker. The salary of some of those CPEP workers have now been reduced to $701 a fortnight. I believe it was 701. If I'm wrong, look back at the video and correct me. And 701 a fortnight, if my maths is correct, I'm not particularly maths springer, but if my maths is correct, 701 a fortnight is going to work out to something like $1,402 a month. $1,400 a month for some of these, while the football coach is making $134,600 a month. I understand that there is specialty and there's a matter of demand and supply, but for one, I'm not sure that the demand for Trinidad football at the moment warrants paying the coach that kind of fee. And even in a matter of specialties, that amount of disparity seems very hard to attempt to justify to me. Anyway, and remarkably, he can get a 2-year extension with a pay raise to US $25,000, which would then be $168,000 TT a month if he leads Trinidad and Tobago to wins over Montserrat and either Cuba or French Guyana in CONCACAF World Cup qualifying games on the 2nd and 6th of July respectively. This is based on a controversial contract that was not agreed to by the TTFA, which is the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association board, but it was signed off in secret by former President William Wallace and General Secretary Ramesh Ramdan. So this exorbitant fee that is being paid to this man, to this coach, was signed off in secret by not the entirety of the board, but by only 2 members in some kind of secret deal. And that seems to be the general modus operandi of our football federation. You know what? To be honest, that seems to be the modus operandi of just about every football federation. FIFA, which starts at the top, if the head of the snake, as it were, seems to be such a corrupt thing, then it seems par for the course that it seems corrupt coming down. And all of this seems so insignificant, especially when you're hearing news about the pandemic, and we're seeing over in Guyana, I read in Guyana, one of their cattle ranchers, their tame cattle farmer, loses over 20 million as animals perish in Cookeright Savannah flood. $20 million. Even in Guyanese money. And not everyone, but a lot of us do like to make some fun over how depreciated the Guyanese dollar is. The dollar isn't of any great value, but $20 million, even in Guyanese dollars, works out to a lot of money. That's nearly 100,000 US dollars, going up the road to 700,000 TT dollars. That's a lot of money. And to be lost in animals. This isn't just that he lost some cash or he lost some jewels. These are animals. This would have been their living farm. These would have been animals that they would have grown to that age, to that maturity, whichever they were. And to see so much of them lost, and then to see the arguments, and even sometimes the amount of celebration we have over sports, like, okay, someone ran really fast. Is that anything to celebrate when considering that they have floods starting and the hurricane season started at the beginning of June, the 1st of June, and we're forecasted to see a very active hurricane season, which to be honest doesn't say much because every hurricane season is being forecasted to be an overactive hurricane season. So we take that with a pinch of salt. But it seems like those things, like why are we worried about such trivial things like how fast people can run and a set of grown men kicking a ball into a goalpost when there are floods happening and people losing their livelihoods? Well, I think that question in large part answers itself, because the fact is that a lot of people are worried about sports and these trivial things. So if so many people are worried about these things and considering these things so high in their lives, even above some of the things that we may consider to be more disastrous, it seems apparent that it isn't as trivial as some may think. And I think that is the exact point of sports. What sports allows is something for people who are into it to pour themselves into something that they can focus on that doesn't have as dire and serious consequences as the real world things. It's like games, a game where you could put focus and energy into it, and even if something negative happens, it's just a game. And sports has that similar idea. Someone is able to go to war with their brother, is able to go to war with their neighbor, and they don't actually have to kill each other. And when we understand that sports give a lot of people this level of escape, the amount of corruption in our local sports is very unfair to anyone that is attempting to use these things as their outlet and to make it all worse, because we understand and we are supposed to agree that sports have an important part to play in our country, not only in the outlet sense, in the entertainment sense and how we relate to it, but also in the sense that it helps to bring people together. Sports is one of the things that helps to unite the country, and a united country works better together. In this pandemic, a lot of people could honestly look out and see if our country was more united. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. If our country was more united, we would have been able to handle this pandemic better. And sports is one of the things that unites the country. If any of you were alive back in 2006 when we qualified for the World Cup, the kind of togetherness we saw in the country at that time, I don't think we have ever seen that replicated ever since. So the unity that sports potentially can give to our country means that we should really focus. And even those of us who aren't interested in sports, like especially some of the women out there, if you made it this far through the video and you aren't interested in sports, well, congratulations to you. But you'd understand that even in this, there's particular benefit to our entire country to having these things run more suitably. And on top of all of this, on top of the uniting factors, they're taking your money to do this. Where do you think the 25,000 US to pay our coaches coming from? They're getting money from our government. So it's literally costing us. So paying attention to this beyond just being angry about who wins and loses is important to us. Do you think it's important to, or does your dislike for sports allow you to not be bothered if money is wasted on it too? Answer me in the comments and see you in the next video.
When you wake up in the morning and you hear the birds cry and you feel the music rising with the tide.